Welcome all to the Weekly Outlook. Bernie here from EWPRO. Jumping into the Weekly Outlook, starting with DXY on the daily. So we got that WX extended wave Y. We're really looking for a 38.2 retracement on the daily and then a Z up. Is it ready to fall over from here? Well, so on the H4, we got the 5 up. We got that WXY, X2, the Z up. We lost all the bearish divergence. So I was just looking for a correction in here. I'm looking at this as an A. We did have the, excuse me, the bull hidden here. And we did go up and break that top. We lost the bearish divergence again. So we got a correction. So I'm looking at this as an A, B, C up in here. And then looking for an A, B, C. It may fall over and come back to this 38.2 on the daily. But yeah, it's quite difficult. This wave up in here, this wave C, has gone a little bit far, but we are getting the bearish divergence. So it's not something you want to buy up the top here. Ideally, on the H1, we got a lot of bearish divergence. So this is about to fall over, but really we want to see this go and break the low, then give us a correction or a flag, and then we can start to look for the sell. Until you get this sell set up, very difficult to trade, because we do have a possible bull hidden here. It's not valid to trade, but you know, we may get a deep correction. It can play around up here for a long time. So like I said, the best way to trade it is break below there and then get your bearish setup, either flag or correction, and then look for the sell. AU on the daily. So we got that WXY. Then we're looking at an ABC in W, ABC in X, and we got that impulse up in wave Y for a 335 pattern complex correction. Then we've gone and broken the low. Like I've mentioned, we lost all the bullish divergence, so I'm just looking for a correction. I was just looking for a correction in here and then another one down. Well, it has gone and broken the low. But if we have a look at this last part here, so I'm looking for an A, B, C in this B wave before we get an A, B, C. On H4, this can become quite complex. But, so you can see what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an A, and we got an A, B, C, and then we get the A, B, C, then the A, B, C. And that's the sort of structure I am looking at. I'll just draw a trend line down in through here. So any buy setup you get on the daily, on the H1, look for that buy. It did have a little buy set up in here. It's quite risky, but it did go. We got that bullish divergence, so we got a break at the top. So any correction you get, look for the buy. And if it just comes up here somewhere and then gives you a sell setup, well, then you could look for the sell. EU on the daily. So we got that WX extended wave Y, like I've mentioned. I'm looking for that X2 up to 38.2 and then more downside. We don't have any bullish divergence, so more than likely we'll get a correction and more downside. On the H4, you can see what I'm looking at. Nothing's changed. Like I said last week, we can get down to this 161.8. We've got a WXY, looking for the X2 and then a Z down. So on the H1, you can start looking for the buys. We do have a lot of bullish divergence here. We haven't quite broken that top yet. There was a little buy set up in here. If we're in that, move it to break even. But yeah, we're looking for that buy. I should put the retracement fib on it. So we're looking for that 38.2 fib retracement. If I just remove this one. So we're just looking for a correction in here before we get more downside. On the H1, yeah, we got all that bullish divergence, and if you get any sort of correction, we're really looking for a B wave and then get that C up to the 38.2 or maybe up to the 50, and then we'll be looking for the downside. GU on the daily. So we're still in this wave Y. Look at that WXY, looking for the X2 up to the 38.2 and then the Z down. So nothing's changed really from last week. On the H4, we did have that. If I just remove that. At that WXY, X2, we had that bear hidden here, and we did break this low. This is looking more as a B wave. So we get, instead of a X2, I'm sort of starting to look at it as an A. This is a B, and we get a C up in here for some sort of a running or expanding flat, and then we get an A, B, C. So we can start looking for the buys. We do have that bullish divergence. On the H1, we have even more bullish divergence, but it hasn't really gone. It's very slow. We're not getting that impulse up. You know, ideally we'd like to see it impulse up, breaking the top, bullish setup, and then look for that buy. Instead, it's very slow, but if you do get any buy set up, I'd be looking for the buy. And you sort of be targeting this 100 fib. So you'd be targeting this 100 fib up here. I'll just draw an arrow. So we're looking for this up here, and then we'll be looking for downside again, I reckon. On the NU, on the daily. So this is very similar. Looking at that WXY. Again, this wave Y may not be over, and we just get a one up in here, and we get some sort of a flat in here for another one down, sort of like AU. If you go to the H4, you can see what I'm looking for. We've got that A, B, C. So any sort of buy setup you get, look for it up to that 100 fib. This one is looking a lot better than most of the others because we got a break above the top. So we got a higher high. So we're looking for any bullish setup Any bullish setup, look for that buy. UY on the daily. This is getting very extended. So we're looking at that WX extended wave Y. Then we'll be looking for that X2 back to the 38.2 and a Z up. It's really running out of steam. It's yeah. When we look at the H4, we've got that WX, Y, X2 and the Z up. Like I've mentioned many times, we lost the bearish divergence. And we just started to go up like this. And now we're starting to get that bearish divergence. So it's very risky to be buying up here. It has broken out of this structure here. So there's still maybe more upside in it. But I believe the upside is starting to get limited. If you wanted to scalp, you know, you're getting a little flag in here, you know, but they're only scalps. I dare say this bearish divergence will hold, even if we get a little bit more upside. Ideally, I'd be looking for, not really interested in the buys. I'd be more interested in a sell breaking out below the low, whichever low, you know, any of these lows. We want a nice impulse down, correction, and then look for the sell down to this 38.2 on the daily. Looking at the Swissy on the daily. So we got that WXY. I don't believe this Y is over. When we look at the H4, like I mentioned last week, this correction here and this correction here are of a similar size in time. So I'm looking at WXY, X2 and the Z up. That's your first target. And the second target is the 161.8. We're starting to, on the H1, we've got those 5 up. So we got a WXY, X2 and the Z up. We had that bull hidden. I said last week we'll possibly get the bull hidden. And we did get a bull hidden and we broke the top. So I'd be looking for like an A and then a B and then a C down and then possibly more upside. Yeah, but at this stage, you can only really look for the sell. Really want to see, go and break that low. Any sell setup that you get in here, look for that sell. UCAD on the daily. So we're looking at that A, B, C. It's still got a little bit more room up to that 100 fib. And then we'll be looking for downside. We are getting bearish divergence already. So it starts to get risky for buying. On the H4, you can see how choppy this is. We got a nice impulse up. We got the correction, but then we got 3 up. So what I'll be looking for here is like an A, B, a C down as some sort of a running or expanding flat, and then you get that A, B, C, possibly up to that daily 100 fib. You can't really sell it now. There was a nice sell set up on it Friday. We got like bearish divergence on the H1, so really you can't really sell it. We do have a possible bull hidden. It's not valid to trade. Yeah, it's really in no man's land. For the sell, we want it to go and break the low and then give you a sell setup for the sell. Other than that, you know, it gets risky to buy, even though we do have a possible bull hidden. But yeah, there's not really much you can do with it because we already have the bearish divergence on the H1. GY on the daily. So we're looking at this last section here, looking at a WXY X2, and we got that Z up and the bearish divergence. I was looking for a correction down to this 50 fib. If you go back through my videos 3-4 weeks ago, when we're up the top here, I was looking for that 50 fib retracement. Haven't quite got there yet. You can see we're getting a correction up in here, up the top there. Looking at the H4, if I just so this is becoming quite complex as well on the H4 because we've got a nice impulse down. If I just zoom out a little bit, we got a bull hidden here. We never broke that top. So we just got a WXY. Then we got an A wave, an A wave. This is looking like a B. But then I was looking for a C up in here. This is very choppy in here. So I'm sort of looking at it. We may get an A, B, C in here. And then we get an A, B, C. And then we get an A, B, C for a larger correction. And that's the sort of structure that I am looking at. Just looking at the price action. So we're getting B waves. So I'm more bearish. You know, there may be a little bit more upside up in here, but yeah, if we go down to the H1, we'll get a better picture of what's happening. So as you can see, looking at a WXY. So we're looking for this one down in here and then another one up. So looking for a B, C in the X2, and then we'll be looking for the buy setup. So really, at this stage, we really want it to go up here, break above that top, and then, you know, you'd have to go on the lower time frames and look for a sell setup to get that little C down, just breaking that low, and then you'll be looking for that buy setup for the wave Z up. But yeah, it's looking, it's extremely choppy. We don't have any bearish divergence at this stage, so you can really only look for the buy at this stage, unless you're scalping that little sell in the C like I showed. EG on the daily, like I've mentioned many times, there's a couple of different ways we can look at it. We can look at it as WXY X2 choppy Z down, or we can look at it as an A, all this is a B, and then we get that C up to that 100 fib, the way that I am looking at it. And then we get that A, B, C. It looks like it's not going to get to that 100 fib. But if we go down to the lower time frames, may give us a better idea of what we're looking at. This was risky. I think this, we had this correction in here, so I was looking for the sell last week. We got the sell, and really, even this week, we'll be looking for another correction and another sell, because we don't have any bullish divergence. So we're just looking for a correction. It may take quite a while for the correction. Might take it all next week for the correction before you get a trade on the sell again. You can't really buy it. If we go down to the H1, you can see it's not looking really impulsive. That's the problem. On the H1, we did get a high, you know. So if you do get a correction, you could look for the buy, but you'd want to wait for the correction. You'd want to see what happens in here. You know, if you're scalping flags, it's going to be quite risky. Because I dare say if you go down to the lower time frames, we'll be starting to get bearish divergence. So yeah, looking at gold on the daily, this is quite complex as well. We had that bear hidden here, and we just got 3 down, and we didn't break that low. So I was just looking for an A, B, C, and then we get like that. Yeah, it's become quite difficult because this one here is starting to come down, and it's nearly broken that low, or it may have even broken this low. No, it hasn't quite broken the low yet. Yeah, see, I was looking for an A, B, C. But that's just about invalid. So if we go down onto the lower time frames, you can see what we're looking at on the H4. We got the 5 down. We lost all the bullish divergence. So I'm just looking for a correction in here and then another one down. So we could be, you know, we're looking at a correction in here. So it's going to be risky to buy, you know, but on the H1, that's all you can look for. You can only look for buys. We've got the bullish divergence, but again, we're sitting down here. It's very slow. This may be some sort of an A, some sort of a B, and then we get a C. There's a couple of different ways we can look at it. It may become quite complex. We may get some sort of like an A, B, C, and then you get an A, B, C before you get A, B, C, more downside. It's very slow. Really, for a solid buy, you really want it to go up, break that top, and then, you know, get your buy set up, a correction or a flag, and then look for the buy. Until you get that, it's very risky. You can't really sell it because we have that bullish divergence, but yeah, and we're not getting a buy set up. There's really nothing on it. Looking at WTI on the daily, so like I've mentioned, we got the 5 up and we lost all the bearish divergence. So I was just looking for a correction in here and then more upside. As you can see, we're getting this regular flat in here. So we got an A, B, C, looking for it to come down to that 100 fib. So there is a little bit more downside left in it. There may be a little bit more downside left in it. On the H4, we don't have any bullish divergence. This is extremely choppy in here. Got 5 down in here. So we can look at it like an A, B, get a C up here for a running or expanding flat, and then you get an A, B, C. So we are looking for more upside. But again, it's not really playing the game. It's not really impulsive. We got the last week we were looking for a WXY, X2. We had that bear hidden. So we're looking for this Z down. We got the Z down. We got the bullish divergence. We're starting to get the impulse. There was a little buy set up in here I took, but yeah, it's very slow. It looks like it's giving a little flag in here. You could look for it. It's quite dangerous. We do have a possible bear hidden there, but it's not valid to trade as bear hidden to go and break the low. So you can really only buy if you get any sort of buy set up. You know, you could look for the buy. Bitcoin on the daily. So we're looking at this A, B, C. It can get down to this 100 fib here. I don't believe we have any. Yeah, we do have bullish divergence. So the bullish divergence has held. But as you can see down here, it's not impulsive. It's very corrective. It looks like it wants to go more down, possibly down to this 100 fib. If you look on the H4, like I've mentioned many times, we've got that WXY, X2, the Z down. The problem was we lost all the bullish divergence. So I was just looking for a correction and then more downside, breaking the low and then giving us a bullish divergence, and then we can look for that buy. But it hasn't given us that yet. It's still, I was hoping this one here would go down and break that low. It never did, and we get an A, B, C. Now we're getting more upside in here, so you know, so we can sort of look at it as a flat in here for an A, B, C, and then you get more downside to go and break that low. Is it something you can trade? It's very difficult. You know, yeah, it's very difficult to buy. It's very risky to buy at this stage until we get that low broken. We're in consolidation. You can see it's going sideways, and Bitcoin is renowned for going sideways for a very long time. If you go back through the charts, you know, like this here, you know, this correction here, it drags on for a long time. Ideally, we do get another one up here, breaking that top, giving us a bearish divergence, and then you could look for a sell. Or, you know, you could look for a little buy to go and break that top. But if you're buying, you know, you're really only scalping. SPX. So we're looking at this last section here. It's not really playing the game. We're looking at WXY. Like I've mentioned, this may be an A, a B, and a C for the X2, and then we get that Z down. But again, this can turn more complex because we may get an A, B, C in here, and then you get an A, B, C before you get that A, B, C in the X2. And that is sort of the way I'm looking at it when I go down to the lower time frames. Any sort of buy setup you get, you can definitely look for it. You can see the structure that I'm looking at, an A, B, C, up to that 100 fib. Definitely want to be taking half off of that 100 fib because, like I said, we may get an A, B, C in here. before we get more upside. Finishing off this daily X2 on the H1, it did give a little bit of a flag in here, and it's taken off. So if you've missed that, it's going to be very difficult to buy, because yeah, you'd really have to go down to the lower time frames, because we're not really looking for a correction in here. We're looking for more of an impulse up, you know, up to this 100 fib, you know. But if we look over here, up in this wave up here, we did get a correction. So if you do get a correction over on this side here in the C wave, you know, you're probably better off to wait for that, any sort of correction, and then look for the buy, rather than trying to scalp these. You know, this one here, you definitely could have, you know, brought this one, but that's the first one. You know, the more flags you get, you know, the more riskier they are. So, you know, if you do get another bullish flag, or you could give it a go, keep tight stops, you'd really want to go down onto the lower time frames. AU 200, really not much at all on this. We're just looking for that X2. We've got a W, really deep X, and then we've got that wave Y down. I'm just looking for that X2 and then a Z down. So we are looking for buys. It sort of didn't give a very nice correction. Gave a very deep correction. So we got an impulse up and sort of impulse in here. We can sort of look at this as a contracting flat in here, and then you get that A, B, C. So going down to the H1, we do have a higher height and we do have the bullish divergence. So you can only buy. So if you get any flag or correction in here, look for that buy. Looking at the DAX on the daily. Again, this one broke that low. So we got a WXY. This was quite difficult because we never got that bear hidden, like I've mentioned many times, to break that low. So I was just looking for an A, B, C up in here. But this wave C, again, it never went and broke that top. So it became quite difficult. And then it's gone down and broken the low. We have the bullish divergence. So you can really only start to look for the buys. As you can see in here, better seen on the H1, we're looking at this like A, B, C, very deep pullback. So only really looking for price to get up to that 100 fib. And yeah, it's halfway there already. So if you're not in it, it's going to be quite risky. You know, if you do get a little buy set up in here, you could look for it. Again, quite risky. You definitely want to be at break even at the top, and definitely take half off at that 100 fib if you're buying anything in here. The FTSE on the daily, this is quite difficult as well. We can only look for the sell. As you can see, this quite impulsive, and we get a B wave, and then we get a C, and then we'll be looking for an A, B, C. On the H4, there's really, you know, it's extremely risky. I mean, we got a choppy impulse up. It hasn't been very nice. We got impulse up, very deep correction, impulse up, very deep correction. You know, so this may just go and break that top and then give it another deep correction, or even go and break the low for some sort of a flat, you know, before you get more downside. But on the H1, you know, you can look for the buy. If we get a trend line in here happening, you know, hasn't quite broken out the trend line, but on the H1 we do have that bullish divergence with the two lows. Yeah, if you do get a correction in here or a flag, you could look for the buy. Again, it's pretty risky, you know, because we got such a choppy wave in this wave. This is choppy as well, so you know, you may get like 1, 2, 3 up here breaking the top. You really want to wait for the correction in here before you look for the buy. So I hope you enjoyed the weekly outlook. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you out there next week.